Are you ready to embark on a journey of success? To discover your true potential in the untold stories of careers in life sciences? Welcome to PATHFINDER by the Purdue Institute of Inflammation, Immunology and Infectious Disease. With your host, Tommy Soares, discover the untold stories of industry scientists and unveil the secrets to excelling in your career. Thank you for joining us once again, and remember to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Welcome, everybody. My name is Tommy Soares. I'm Director of Scientific Strategy and Relations for the Purdue Institute of Inflammation, Immunology and Infectious Disease. And today on Pathfinder, I have the pleasure of welcoming Brian Stemme, who is the CEO of Hoosier Cancer Research Network, the HCRN. Which is a nonprofit organization that advances clinical research by collaborating with academic institutions, community hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, and cancer-focused nonprofits to bring new treatments to patients. HCRN manages 90 clinical trials and supports multiple research collaborations, including the Big Ten Cancer Research Consortium. Brian oversees a team of 60 professionals. Prior to HCRN, Brian was a senior vice president at BioCrossroads and manager at Eli Lilly and Company. He is a member of the Butler University Board of Trustees, his undergraduate alma mater. Welcome to Pathfinder. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on the program, telling us a little bit about you. I am so excited to have you on. You have no idea. In fact, I've had several requests for me to reach out and have you on Pathfinder. A few people have wanted me to interview you, and I thank you so much for taking time to talk to me and accept my invitation.
Tommy, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. You're such an advocate for the Big Ten Research Consortium and such a thoughtful person. I can't wait to jump into it.
Awesome. Well, I met you when you were back in the IEDC BioCrossroads days, and I've always been so impressed by what a connector you are in the life sciences in Indiana. And it's really for the whole state. I have admired you and your career, what you've done to really bring and bridge people together, attract companies to come and set up shop in Indiana. And Brian, to tell you the truth, one of the reasons why I started Pathfinder was to really show people who don't live in Indiana all the wonderful opportunities, the life that we have here. And it's so awesome to be able to talk to you because I think in a sense, maybe you were somewhat an inspiration for me to get going with this Pathfinder program.
Well, thank you for the kind words. It's really been a great journey working with BioCrossroads, working with yourself. We have such a great set of assets here in the state, great set of people, really strong. And we just at BioCrossroads kept telling the story. And over time, I think we made some progress. And, I think we keep getting a little bit better every day, and we'll keep it going.
Absolutely. I know you've always been a very strong advocate of the life sciences here in Indiana and in trying to connect industry with the academic world. And I think mainly that's why I've stayed really well connected with you, is that we keep trying to forge these connections. Tell us a little bit. I know you went to Butler and you essentially started from a business degree perspective, coming into the life sciences. What was that journey like? What got you interested in life sciences? And I know you're coming more from the economic development side of things, but What was it about the life sciences that attracted you?
Yeah, I came out of Butler University with a degree in accounting, and then worked at Arthur Andersen, a public accounting firm in audit and tax. And that was a great employer. It was a great place to work, 40,000 people. But over time, I really determined that while I liked being that analytical, it really was a better fit for me to be having more of a people-focused role, kind of outward facing, as opposed to being exclusively focused on the finances.
Yeah.
Went from Arthur Anderson, had the opportunity to work at Lilly, and was a wonderful opportunity. My first role was in LRL Finance, so Lilly Research Laboratories, and it was a great opportunity to learn about drug development. How did Lilly go about thinking about what targets to look for? What are those things, those activities? What do they cost? What were the risks involved? And it really gave me a great background for working in the industry. Eventually, there was this opportunity. Some folks got together, Indiana University, Purdue University, Lilly, and they had this idea that if we could collaborate a little bit more among big stakeholders, that we might be able to support the industry and continue to get stronger. And I started to volunteer. It was called the Central Indiana Life Sciences Initiative. Doesn't really roll off the tongue, but we started as a small group that was doing some volunteer work. After a few years of just working a couple meetings a month, chasing down some information to be useful, they decided to staff up, and they said, well, we're going to form a real organization, and would you be interested? And while I was at Lilly, it's a great place to work, great set of people. I really felt like I could make a difference in trying to help the state, trying to figure out ways to make the economy better, create opportunities for our young people coming out of college. So it was appealing. I thought that I would stay for 2 or 3 years and then move on to the next thing. But we were lucky to have great support from our funders. We had some great projects that we worked on, and they just said, keep going. And so spent many years there, but it really felt like several different jobs, different projects, different activities. So while I was there a long time, it really felt like I was in a new job every 3 or 4 years, and certainly loved the goal of trying to make the sector better, and really enjoyed that part of being a connector, uh, trying to help people in universities find partners in industry, trying to help young people find opportunities in the industry, trying to inform companies elsewhere about how great things were here. And so it was a great opportunity. I really enjoyed my time there.
I think again, I'll repeat myself because it was so awesome to see you working in that respect, and it's still awesome to see you working in your current role. But I know that I was very impressed by observing you in some of those circles and the types of meetings that you were running. I know also from going into your LinkedIn profile that you did have, when you were in Lilly, you did have this experience of setting up Lilly Systems Biology in Singapore.
Mhm.
That I and it seemed like you also had other other types of bringing people together and starting this journey that you continued in your Central Indiana initiative, if you want, for lack of a better term.
Mhm.
How was that? Tell us a little bit about that occasion and that whole project. I'm sure in Singapore must have been so fascinating.
It was really interesting, Tommy. It was around the year 2000, and Singapore is a small country, really a city and a state and a country all in one. They had looked to the future. They saw the World Trade Organization coming about, and they saw the days when China was going to be moving into the WTO, and that was going to be a big competitor for
Mhm.
many of the things that they were good at: semiconductor manufacturing, some pharmaceutical manufacturing. And they decided on a strategy through an economic development organization that they had called the Economic Development Board, EDB. So the EDB set a strategy to say, we need to move from manufacturing to more of being R&D, being the brains, being the creative side, because we don't think we can compete with some of these other countries on a low cost basis on some of these activities.
Right.
So they went to the CEO or the CSO of every large pharmaceutical in the nation, and I think many in Europe also. And they said, we would love for you to set up an R&D operation. Why don't you put a proposal together, and we would be love to have discussions with you about different things that you might be able to do here in Singapore and leverage the assets that we have. But our focus is we want to be research and development. Pharmaceutical manufacturing is great, clinical development is great, but we really want to up the game on our R&D facilities. So Lilly sat down, and it was Dr. Watanabe at the time was the chief scientific officer, very distinguished person, very accomplished at Lilly. They came to him and they put this message out, and he said, I think this is interesting. I'm going to have a team go work on what we might do. Singapore had said these were the things that we were interested in. At the time, the power of the internet, the power of computing was becoming more powerful, and you were able to do additional things in drug discovery that we weren't able to earlier. And informatics and systems biology, the study of the interaction of cells via IT software, much like we have now with an even more advanced way. But we said, let's put together a proposal. We made that proposal to Singapore with the goal of focusing on systems biology and informatics, and really the opportunity to leverage both Singapore's workforce in that area, as well as bringing some of Lilly's individuals into that area and trying to leverage something that was really still new at the time. I think now we think of in silico drug discovery as really being nothing new or nothing surprising, but at the time it was a novel idea, and it was very hot thing to do. So we worked with Singapore over about 18 months to negotiate a deal. We were in Singapore several times to meet with the government officials and industry and universities. And it was very interesting to see how we put together a proposal, how that got negotiated. It was very interesting. We had the entire scientific, legal, regulatory teams coming together. And the proposal, like any negotiation, takes a long time to put together. But overall, it was fascinating to work with that. Dr. Watanabe was very happy. There was, I think, 6 of us that had worked on it for that long. I was the representative from finance, and I was very honored that at the end of the project, the group, the team as a group won the LRL President's Award, which was a big deal within Lilly Research Laboratories. And it was a great honor to do that, especially with someone like Dr. Watanabe, who later became the first chairman of BioCrossroads. I had no idea that I would be in that role or that he would be in that role, but it was an honor to be part of that, and very fascinating at the time to be working on what became a very important part of the R&D infrastructure for Lilly at that time.
I've heard of Dr. Watanabe in so many different circles, starting from my role and my knowledge within the Indiana CTSI and the prizes that we give out in his name. And I know also the Indiana Biosciences Research Institute. It has, a lot of honor towards him. I know Alan Palkowitz probably got to work with him. Tell us a little bit about Dr. Watanabe, if you got to work with him a little bit. What was he like?
I think the most fascinating part of Dr. Watanabe was his background, and then how he used his education and the both academic and industry components to become just such an amazing leader with a lot of vision. He grew up in a modest background. He grew up in northern Indiana, and I know that his parents were immigrants. So he really had the opportunity, worked very hard, kind of manual labor as a youngster. ended up doing very well in high school and really moving beyond the situation, leveraging those opportunities and as an American citizen. Fantastic. He went to Wheaton College in Chicago, and then later on to IU School of Medicine, where he later became a research and obviously clinician. He headed up cardiovascular research, later becoming the dean of the med school. After that stint, he was recruited by Lilly to manage their cardiovascular research programs, and ultimately became the chief scientific officer of Lilly. A great vision, a great communicator, very much a person that you walked into a room, he commanded respect, but in a thoughtful way, and was very convincing. He was very um, thoughtful, very magnetic, and certainly we just really benefited from him being in such a high role and being so loyal to the state and having just this Indiana background where he just went all the institutions and had such a big influence. I know he was involved with many civic organizations, BioCrossroads, and many others.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. What sounds like quite a person to know, quite a gentleman in many sense of the word. Tell us, what was this period then? So did he transfer to BioCrossroads, or he play a role in BioCrossroads after you had transitioned over there?
I was volunteering for what became BioCrossroads, and he, after he retired as chief scientific officer of Lilly, was asked by the team there, which included those universities, the city of Indianapolis, to be the chairman of the organization. And that was such a benefit to the organization. It put somebody who was very thoughtful, very well respected, as and gave it really some gravitas. It gave it the ability for people to listen to the ideas that were being considered, and really helped set the strategy. And some of those strategies were very focused on research and development, and others were focused on capital, seed funding, other things that not necessarily Lilly needed, but our region needed, so
Mm,
that there could continue to be an ecosystem that would draw people to the region and maybe to Lilly. So
yeah.
he was very thoughtful in helping to set that strategy, and certainly was convincing in having people join us, either as volunteers or as people that were on the board.
Yeah, that's awesome. As you said, gravitas, but also like causing people to want to work with him
Hmm.
and come aboard too. Um, what makes Indiana such a great place for life sciences? I mean, what attracts people in the first place that would be surprising for people outside of Indiana to know about?
Hmm. I think that the part that's really fascinating is Indiana has just this breadth of assets, from medical devices with people like Cook and the orthopedic companies in Warsaw, which is really a hidden gem from the perspective of a really beautiful place and a great place to live in Warsaw, Indiana. But we have these educational institutions, I would first say, between Purdue University, Indiana University, Notre Dame to a lesser extent, just because it's still up and coming in its science. But we have a great combination of academic institutions, of companies, both public companies that are world renowned, like Lilly and other Roche, but also privately held companies that are amazing in their own way, such as Cook Medical and others. We're really lucky to have a cross section. Many regions have a lot of manufacturing, like a North Carolina, or they have a lot of R&D, like a San Francisco or a Boston. But Indiana has a really great cross section. We have research and development at the university level and at corporate entities. We have a lot of clinical development and manufacturing. And then we actually are able to distribute those products via some of our regional strengths, like our central location, our airport. So we have this really great We're across and we're diversified, I guess is the best way to say it. So we have these academic institutions that create the ballast, kind of the academic heft. Then we have companies that are there that are able to take those graduates and collaborate with those academics. And then there are other opportunities for people who are in engineering or um, different types of manufacturing, an incredibly complex supply chain. And that's really all here. And it developed around people like Lilly, people like Cook, people like Baxter. And so we're really lucky to have what is the entire um, industry supply chain. We're not just research and development, which is great. We're not just manufacturing, which is also a great, valuable activity, but we do everything. And
Yeah.
so we're lucky to have this combination of things that have come together. And I think the most common thing I ever heard, Tommy, when I would have a conversation would be, wow, I didn't know all those things were going on in Indiana. I had no idea.
Exactly.
I must have heard that 100 times over the years, and it was very satisfying when we could lay that out and show people the true opportunity here and the true assets. It wasn't a sales job, it wasn't marketing or
Mm.
other types of things. It literally was just informing people of what we have and how it works together.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. It sure is an eye opener to look, as you said, the diversity, the supportive ecosystem that's here, and the sense of community. I mean, Brian, I've known you for, my gosh, 20 years, something like that, and we've maintained contact. We're part of I would say the fabric of what makes Indiana great because we're constantly connecting and trying to put the things together, opportunities together, people together. I think it's a hidden gem that, as you said, most
Hmm.
people would be surprised to know about all of those opportunities. But I also think that we have such a high quality of life. The cost of living is not very high in Indiana compared to your Bostons, your San
Hmm.
Franciscos, and I don't know what's it like in North Carolina, but I do know that the quality of life that we are able to live here in Indiana, especially being in and around the life sciences
Hmm.
ecosystem, is a good quality of life.
I really agree, Tommy. I won't, it's not a direct quote, but I know Dr. Richard DeMarchi from Indiana University, who is very successful in his career at Lilly and starting several companies and also just receiving a very prestigious award from the AAAS as one of the early researchers in GLP-1,
Mm,
as we know, is just a very incredible technology. Several times I heard him say over the years, after his success, he could have worked in any city in the world. He was very well respected as a peptide chemist. And he said several times that he would much rather spend his time walking around the campus of Indiana University or in his home in those cities in Indianapolis and really do his thinking as opposed to sitting in a commute somewhere on the East Coast or West Coast where he would took an hour to get somewhere, that he could be so productive in doing that thinking, having that interaction with fellow scientists. And I just thought that was a really great thing for somebody who could live anywhere and would be successful anywhere to choose to live here because he felt like the camaraderie and the quality of life and the opportunities both to live a great life and to live in a great place, as well as the scientific talent. And I think that's one thing we can't underestimate is the level of talent in chemistry.
yeah,
Dr. Lau at Purdue,
yeah.
just the amazing number of smart people is very underestimated here.
Yeah, and to have them concentrated in what feels like a small state. I know we're not necessarily a small in size, but it feels probably because of the population that there's a high level of talent and education that comes out of our institutions here, and that is part of the community settings that you have here. There is this peace of mind living in Indiana because it is fairly quiet. We're Indiana. We suffer from what's called the Indiana nice. Have you ever heard of this?
Yes, I know it well from competing with other states and talking with people in other cities and other regions. Again, many were unaware of the level of depth and breadth of our sector,
Yeah.
as well as the bravado of other places was a little overstated in some areas.
Yes.
Certainly the major regions hold their own and are leaders, but many people talk to me about their particular regions, and I was able to say, yeah, I understand what you've got, but let me share some other things with you. And we were able to ensure the people kind of knew that we were definitely worthy of being on the radar.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention your tremendous influence and impact in creating Agronovus here in Indiana. Can you tell us a little bit about that time and what that was about? I know we're talking a lot about the life sciences, and we're going to get to the biomedical, and we're talking about medical devices and so on, and the pharmaceuticals. But let's talk about the opportunities that were created from such an amazing agriculture ecosystem that we have here, and what was your motivation for creating Agronovus?
I'll just give a short backstory on how Agronovus came about. We were looking after 10 years as an organization. We sat down and we really wanted to think through what our strategies would be. Where were we? What were we doing? Was it the right things? We took a pretty deep dive on patents. And as we looked at the patent activity in the region to make sure that we were trying to focus on areas of academic strength and how those might connect with industry, we were like, wow, we have so many plant science and animal health patents in this area. Really high numbers, a top 5 area in the nation as far as the level of patent activity. And we said, we have to look into this more. Are we missing something? So we did some more work, both with some external experts as well as talking with many people at Purdue, your institution, which is amazing as a world leader. And we thought, we think we have a role here to play in agricultural innovation. We had Purdue with amazing science in a lot of different areas. We had Elanco, which after being spun out by Lilly, was one of the largest animal health companies in the world. And we had a significant number of seed companies. We had privately held companies like Bex Seeds. We had Corteva, known as Dow Agro at that time.
Yeah.
And we felt like if we were to go out and we looked in other areas and we said, wow, we have genetics for ducks, and we have all these things that are these hidden things that are amazing. They're doing a lot of interesting things,
Yeah.
but like a little bit like with the BioCrossroads model, they weren't necessarily collaborating. They weren't necessarily talking. Was there a way that we could put a brand around the activity in Indiana? And so we came together. We were able to unite our academic stakeholders, state government, both the legislative branch, I'm sorry, the legislative branch as well as the IEDC, very supportive, very interested, because as you know, Tommy, there's not a pharmaceutical company in every county in the state. But if we had, 92 counties in Indiana, there were probably 80 that had a lot of agriculture.
Yep.
And so it became an opportunity to include them in the dialogue about things that were innovative, new technologies, things that were changing the world right here. And so I think the combination of our academic institutions, our companies, and state government coming together on new technology and innovation. We know there was a lot of great organizations like Indiana Farm Bureau and
Sure.
other organizations supporting the production. farmer and part of the industry. But what we really wanted to focus on was the new company formation, new science, both academic collaborations. And so by doing that, we were able to pull together a consortium of people that we worked 2 years to put it together.
Mm.
We're able to get funding and execute on our strategies for 2 years. We went ahead and got some additional funding, and then I transitioned back to BioCrossroads. We hired Beth Bechtel, a fantastic person, to run that organization. And later on, Mitch Frazier, one of the most amazing people I know, took over Agronovus, and they are doing just amazing things. I remember
Awesome.
we were looking at the stats, and we didn't have very much venture capital, Tommy, not much in the ag tech space. And now I look at the stats, and we're doing amazing, 3 or 4 times more money than we had 10 years ago. And it's a lot of that goes to the academic institutions that are patenting that, a lot of activity, both from the state and others to try to support startups. But it is really exciting to see Agronovus was an idea, then it became a small thing, and now it's a really big thing, and it's really interesting.
Absolutely. And kudos to you, really, Brian. What a vision to be able to put that together. And I do follow some of the podcasts that they have. They do a wonderful job too. And Beth's career, I mean, has been tremendous that we have somebody from Indiana sitting at a global scale providing providing this type of counseling and recommendations. And I don't know if you want to say a little bit about that.
Well, it's really, I think, tells you something about the people working in Indiana when you can have the leader of Agronovus, which is a great entity focused on really interesting things and how the world is going to grow through technology, the availability of food, and for other purposes. But she actually went to work at a very high position at the United Nations.
Yeah.
So it is really interesting, and it's sort of it's in a area focused on innovation and technology, and how worldwide we'll need to have countries that can implement technologies like ones that are invented at Purdue to ensure that we have an adequate food supply and that we can cover all the things that we need to help people as they move up the economic ladder with more protein, with less pollution. Well, that's not probably the right word, but less waste and more efficiency. So it's really great when you say, oh, you know, our leader was leading this 5 to 10 person organization, and now she's in charge of technology for the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, the FAO. So
it's great. It's great. And along the same lines, we just honored Dr. Gebisa Ejeda too. And, you know, we have on the world stage, we're making a big impact in that area of agriculture. Gebisa now launching a new initiative with Africa as well. And it's just amazing to see. And I do know that very recently, our government in Indiana went and started to do, had a visit in Mexico and in Brazil as well to see what we could start doing to deepen our relationships with those two countries. So I think from the agriculture perspective, things are moving really, really well. And as you said, you know, it was something that was seen as an opportunity. And I'm so thankful that Agronovus is there, at least to popularize it or make it available for people and help with the technology translation. The tech transfer is a big piece too that I know they're formidable at. Brian, tell us a little bit. I know you you are the CEO of this Hoosier Cancer Research Network, but I know that this was something that you chose to embark on And as you mentioned a little bit, is because you see so much of the opportunities around the cancer world
Mhm.
that we can play. First of all, what is the Hoosier Cancer Research
Mhm.
Network? If you could tell us a little bit about that, and what is the role that you play as CEO within the network?
I'm really glad to be able to talk about Hoosier Cancer Research Network, which I'm going to refer to as HCRN, a little shorter there. We are unique in that we are a nonprofit organization that supports academic medical institutions and other hospitals in executing phase 2 oncology trials. So, as you know, there is a series of testing that a drug has to go through with the FDA to ensure that it's safe and efficacious for patients. We help academic institutions that typically have a doctor, an oncologist with an interesting idea. And they know as an organization that they might be able to recruit a small number of patients for this clinical trial, but they may be able to recruit 5, but they really need 50 to be able
Mm,
to make sure that the trial is proving the point that they want to test. So our organization helps those academic medical centers be able to get new sites online, typically other large hospitals or academic medical centers, to help them recruit those patients and to be able to execute on those clinical trials. We're unique in that we're a nonprofit, so we are an ally of the academic medical institution and an ally of the oncologist there that has the idea on the clinical trial. And we are an extension of that academic medical center to help them be able to get these trials open and help patients. It's really a gem because what it does is it has a very small niche, and it's again supporting these trials that are being developed by doctors and helping them become fully enrolled and hopefully be able to, if the phase 2 part, which is what we work on, kind of the early tests of efficacy, if there's some positive signal, then those can be taken on to phase 3, typically by other companies or even maybe the pharmaceutical funder that we might be working with. So it's great that these are trials that would not be run otherwise because they're big enough to be beyond the scope of a single institution. But they're small enough that an industry company may not be interested in doing them at first. They may have bigger priorities. They may have other things they're focused on. So the most important thing that we do is help patients get new options that wouldn't have been available. We help the researcher try to help them prove the hypothesis or disprove. And then hopefully, if we're able to enroll the trial, gather data, then that can potentially be a future um, uh, care standard of care for patients in that area. So it's great. It's great that we have the opportunity, and I work with a set of fantastic people. I guess the last thing I would say is that we're really lucky. We work with IU Simon Cancer Center.
yeah,
We work with all the Big Ten universities through the Big Ten Cancer Research Consortium and other great academic institutions like Johns Hopkins and MD Anderson cancer centers across the nation. We're really lucky to have a network of about 100 institutions that are under contract and can help support our institutions and our doctors that have new clinical trial ideas.
that's wonderful. So again, as your natural way of being, you're a natural connector. And again, you continue to be this natural connector in now the cancer world and cancer clinical trials. Again, so wonderful to see this transition and to be able to work for this nonprofit
Mhm.
organization. It, you know, so it sounds like you guys are handling several trials. These are all cancer related trials.
Mhm.
All types of cancers,
Mhm.
or okay, so that there's no
Mhm.
particular specialty. And so how do you guys handle all of the regulatory stuff? Is that something
Mhm.
that you handle, or is that handled by each institution that wants to participate in the
Mhm.
clinical trial?
Yeah, so we are really the boots on the ground to help the researcher do their work. So we really do everything for a clinical trial except for writing the protocol, which is the instructions on how the trial will work and the medical and clinical endpoints that they're trying to prove or disprove, and then recruiting the patient face to face. That's the um, responsibility of the hospital or the academic medical center that are seeing those patients and who have decided to participate in this clinical trial and help enroll their patients within it. As part of that boots on the ground, kind of behind the scenes of getting things done, we help the academic institution prepare all the regulatory documents that have to be filed with the FDA.
Mhm.
As the kind of the owner of the trial, that academic institution will be officially file those documents, but we're responsible for monitoring adverse effects during the trial, in informing both the funder of the trial as well as the academic institution of any problems, and the FDA within a certain time frame of any problems. So it's definitely complicated, but we've got a great team here, 60 people with a lot of different skill sets and experiences. So we're lucky that we've got a good team. And again, there are so many aspects of a clinical trial. I think that it might, to the average person, sound straightforward, but it really is complicated, and there are a lot of important things to get done.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen a little bit. I've lifted under the hood. I've seen a little bit about what's going on, and it's very complex. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of moving parts. There's a lot of orchestration that needs to go on. Tell us about a little bit about the people that work at the HCRN. What are their roles, or what are some of the responsibilities
Mm-hmm.
that you have in there?
Yeah, we have, if you were to look at a academic medical center that's running a single site clinical trial, where you were to look at a large contract research organization, a CRO, like a Quintiles, we have the same skill sets. We just happen to be a little smaller. So we have people that know how to support the academic with writing a protocol.
Mm.
We have a lot of project managers that help keep the projects moving, keep the trials going. We have a contracts group that has to make sure that we have everything aligned between the funder, between the academic institution. We have very complicated IT. It was something that was new to me. We have a group that builds a database. So if we think about following these patients, we have to, when they come in, you have to record certain health data. And over time, you have to um, capture the data for how they're reacting to
Mhm.
their treatment.
Right.
And this data has to be captured over 4, 5, 6 years. And so the database has to be right. We have people who work in informatics, so they're heavy on using tools like R or SAS. Very complicated and really very good, great use of programming skills. I'm glad we have them. And I guess finally, we have people that are ensuring that all those activities get completed successfully. We are engaging heavily with the institution, the FDA, other stakeholders. So this element of project management is so important
Yeah.
during the process.
Yeah. From my outsider point of view, I can see that you are getting a lot out of being able to not only make the connections with and among institutions that want to participate, but I can see from the way that you're talking that you're really are thankful that you're doing something that impacts the patients
Hmm.
directly. It came out at least when you were talking.
Hmm.
Um, Tell us a little bit what that is like. That here is potential, like, and I know in a clinical trial, especially double-blinded clinical trials where sometimes you get the treatment, sometimes you
Hmm.
don't, sometimes it's a placebo, whatever it might be. But what's it like to know that at least some people are getting the right care that is going to turn the system into that being the regular care that we're going to be
Hmm.
giving patients like that? I mean, that must be so satisfying.
Well, I chose to be in this role. I'm honored to be in it, but I part of it was that my father's a cancer survivor. Very thankful that he has access to the care that he had, which was developed through a clinical trial that ultimately was able something he could utilize. So that was a small part of it. We have many people in our organization that are passionate about that because their family has been or friends have been touched by cancer. I think that, really the metric I look at for myself as a leader as I come in each day and I check what was the enrollment. So I look literally every day how many patients were able to join the trials that we're running. And in some cases, we can really have a direct impact on that. We can get the trial up faster. We can get the database complete. We can work with our investigators to make sure everything is right. And in some cases, we have to just be patient because a patient has to come into that academic institution. They have to be willing to participate in a trial. So we control our destiny in some ways, but others we have to hope that patients will be available to participate. And certainly we want them to be successful in their treatment on these new ideas. So it is exciting, and I know that's one thing I just look at. I think my team, I just work with a great set of people, lots of different experiences, nurses, people who've worked in academic medical settings at IU Med School and IU Cancer Center. But it really is great to be able to work with a set of people, and it's rewarding, although I think they grow tired of me saying, how can we go faster? How can we go faster? Because the faster we get these trials open and then later gather the data and allow that to be analyzed, the sooner that we'll be able to help patients and hopefully as many as possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Is there something in the immediate future, some artificial intelligence, some application that you think is going to help us do these things faster, or at least open them faster and recruit faster?
I think over time that, we talk about AI in a lot of parts of both our personal and business lives. And while there's not a current tool that we use, we are staying abreast of those that are being used by pharmaceutical companies and other CROs to try to ensure that we know of those if there's something that comes along that we could utilize effectively. I think right now we're just trying to take the processes that we currently have, which are effective, but we just want to do them faster. We want to be able to get our contracts signed faster. We want to get our databases locked up faster. And we've got a great set of people. We've been working on metrics and we're getting a little bit better every day. And that's all I shoot for.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Brian, it's been such a pleasure talking to you today. Are there any questions that I didn't ask that you wish I would have asked you?
Oh boy. I think that I would just say that it's so exciting that we are part of the Indiana ecosystem. We've really tried to utilize some of the things that are out there to help Indiana institutions. We are actively hiring from the Ascend Indiana network that tries to connect companies with Indiana graduates for internships or early in career positions. I think we've hired 4 people through that network, and it's the perfect thing. We are small. Sometimes people haven't heard of us. So I think it's kind of like Indiana Life Sciences. Once we have the chance to talk to you and show you what we're doing, we can make a believer out of you. So we're happy to try to be and are excited to be part of the ecosystem. And over time, we're going to continue to try to do things so that more people know about the fantastic work that my colleagues do in the worthy mission, working with important stakeholders like Simon Cancer Center, Purdue, Notre Dame, and others. So we're just going to keep working hard, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to come back and share with you great results of how things have changed over the last few years and how we've been able to help hundreds or thousands of patients.
We'll be excited to hear some of those results and to catch up with you again. Thank you so much for being on Pathfinder. Brian Stemme, the Chief Executive Officer at the Hoosier Cancer Research Network, the HCRN. Thank you again, and I hope you have a great day.
Tommy, thank you for having me, and I hope you have a great week.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us once again, and remember to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.